The fateful battle between Cyttorak and the Celestials. Under a blood-red sky, a warped dimension emerged, where sharp mountains of rock rose from the earth like giant blades, suspended in the void. The air was heavy, filled with the smell of sulfur and scorched metal, and the roars echoed from the depths of the void. This was the domain of Cyttorak, an ancient being so powerful that even the stars bowed to his will. He stood there, on a throne forged from the bones of fallen gods, his eyes blazing like two hellish furnaces, staring through the veil of space to face those who dared challenge him. The Celestials, the titans of the cosmos, the self-proclaimed architects of all creation. In a moment of silence, when the light of distant stars was smothered by the enveloping darkness, the Celestials, their colossal figures clad in gleaming metallic armor, appeared like living monuments, their every step causing the space to shake and crack. They did not speak, did not need to speak. Their presence was a declaration of war. Leading the way was Arishem, the great judge, his cold face hidden behind a massive helmet, his hands clenched, as if he held the universe in the palm of his hand. Beside him was Nezarr, the calculator, his body lines glowing like a star map. And last was Eson, the seeker, with a cold gaze that seemed to pierce the very soul of any being who dared to meet him. Cyttorak did not move. He just sat there, on his throne, a sneer on his angular face, carved from stone and fire. He did not need to stand to prove his power. His domain, a dimension where the laws of physics bend to his will, is the ultimate testament to his untouchable power. Every speck of dust in the air, every glimmer of light that filters through the cracks of reality bears his mark. This is where he is king, he is lord, he is all. But the Celestials were not here to negotiate, they were here to destroy. Arishem raised his hand, a golden beam of energy shooting out, tearing the space apart like a sword of light. The surrounding mountains of rock crumbled, turning to dust before the terrible power. Nezarr, with his hands spinning as if drawing a complex mathematical model, summoned small black holes, sucking everything around them into the endless void. Eson, without hesitation, fired a beam of energy from his eyes, reducing a part of Cyttorak's domain to ash in the blink of an eye. The invisible crowd, the souls trapped in this dimension, groaned in horror, but Cyttorak did not move. He only tilted his head slightly, as if enjoying a clumsy performance. Then, with a gentle wave of his hand, he caused the entire space to tremble. Nezarr's black holes dissolved like sea foam before a tsunami. Arishem's energy blast warped, turning, and exploded right in front of the great judge, cracking his armor to pieces. Eson, the fastest of the three Celestials, tried to rush forward, but a single glance from Cyttorak froze him in midair, a statue lost in the flow of time.
"Who do you think you are?" Cyttorak's voice echoed, not from his mouth, but from the very space around him, as if every speck of dust, every ray of light echoed his words. The voice was low but carried the weight of billions of years of existence, causing even the Celestials to falter. "You are the builders, but I am the destroyer. You create the stars, but I cause them to fall. This is my domain, and no one, no being, can stand before me." Arishem, though wounded, did not yield. He stood, arms raised, summoning a more powerful force, as if drawing power from the very core of the universe. Nezarr, with deadly calm, began to reshape the space around him, trying to bend Cyttorak's domain to his will. Eson, freed from his restraints, charged forward at the speed of light, arms flailing as if to tear apart reality itself. But Cyttorak only smiled. The smile was cold, cruel, like a death sentence. He stood, for the first time in the battle, and with each step he took, the ground split open, fissures spreading like the veins of a giant monster. He raised his arms, and a crimson flame erupted, not ordinary fire, but the fire of destruction, burning through space and time. The flames engulfed Eson, causing the giant to scream in pain before disintegrating into ashes. Nezarr, despite his quick wit, was not spared. He tried to defend himself by erecting an energy shield, but the shield shattered like glass before Cyttorak's power. In the blink of an eye, Nezarr vanished, as if he had never existed. Arishem, the last of the group, stood alone before Cyttorak. The great judge, who had once passed judgment on entire galaxies, was now a mere shadow before the lord of this dimension. He attempted one last attack, but Cyttorak only needed a snap of his fingers. The space around Arishem contracted, crushing him like a stone buried in the ground. Arishem's screams echoed, but then died away, leaving an eerie silence. Cyttorak returned to his throne, eyes still blazing like furnaces. He said nothing, needed nothing. His domain remained intact, as if the recent war had been a passing breeze. But in the back of his mind, a question lingered. Was there any being strong enough to challenge him in his own home? When the dust cleared and the air returned to silence, the crimson cosmos still stood, as if the battle had never happened. The floating mountains of rock, the glowing fissures like lava, and the blood-red sky still held their impenetrable majesty. Cyttorak, the lord of this dimension, sat brooding on his bone-white throne, his eyes glowing like two hellish furnaces, now gleaming with thought. He had just destroyed 3 celestials, Arishem, Nezarr, and Eson, who claimed to be the architects of the universe, but this victory had not brought him the satisfaction he had hoped for. A small sense of unease crept into his ancient mind.
At the foot of the throne, the souls trapped within the crimson cosmos groaned, their cries mixing with the heavy air like a ghostly song. They were the remnants of those who had once challenged Cyttorak, gods, demons, and heroes who had fallen before his overwhelming might. But now, as he gazed upon these shadowy figures, a question echoed in his mind. Was there any being strong enough to break his invincibility? Would the crimson cosmos itself one day fall? Cyttorak had no time to dwell on his thoughts. The air around him suddenly shook, not by his own power, but by an alien force, something strange and threatening. The crimson sky cracked like shattered glass, and from the crack, a new being stepped forth. It was not like the celestials, not the metallic gleam or the colossal form of the builders of the universe. This being was smaller, almost humanoid, but every step it took distorted the space around it, as if reality itself were shrinking before its presence. He called himself Oblivion, the embodiment of nothingness. Oblivion's eyes were not eyes, but 2 deep black holes, sucking in all the light around him. His armor, if it could be called that, seemed to be woven from darkness, flowing like a river of ever-shifting ink. When he spoke, it was not a voice that echoed like Cyttorak's, but a voice that penetrated the mind, cold and sharp, like a blade cutting through the soul. Cyttorak, Oblivion said, his voice low but carrying the weight of eternity. You think yourself invincible, but I have not come to fight you. I have come to erase you, to send you back to the void, to which all things, even the gods, must return. Cyttorak stood up, feeling a flicker of doubt for the first time in millennia. He was not afraid, he knew no fear, but he realized that Oblivion was unlike any foe he had ever faced. The Celestials, powerful as they were beings of creation, bound by the laws of the universe. But Oblivion was something else entirely. He was not of the universe. He was the void between universes, the void that even the stars feared. Without a declaration of war, the battle began. Oblivion raised his hand, and a darkness erupted. Not ordinary darkness, but a living darkness, consuming everything in its path. The rocky mountains of the crimson cosmos disintegrated at the touch of the darkness, as if they had never existed. The fissures of lava died, and even the trapped souls stopped their groans, drawn into the void without a trace. Cyttorak roared, his roar shaking the very dimensions. He raised his hand, summoning the crimson fire that had burned Eson and brought Arishem to his knees. But when the fire touched Oblivion's darkness, it did not burn as fiercely as before. Instead, the fire was sucked into the darkness, fading like a drop of water into the ocean. For the first time, Cyttorak felt something close to helplessness. But he was not the lord of the crimson cosmos by mere luck. He focused all his will, all his strength, and the space around him began to change. Mountains of rock were reborn, rising from the void like giant blades, charging straight at Oblivion. Lava streams erupted from the ground, engulfing the dark entity like a fiery tsunami. Cyttorak stepped forward, each step cracking the space, and he swung his arm, releasing a red beam of energy so powerful it could tear apart a galaxy. Oblivion did not flinch. He simply stood there, letting the mountains pierce him, letting the lava engulf him, letting Cyttorak's energy strike him square in the chest. But when the smoke cleared, Oblivion stood firm, unscathed. He tilted his head slightly, as if examining an ant trying to bite him. Then, with a wave of his hand, he caused the crimson cosmos to shake. The space around Cyttorak contracted, as if the dimension itself had betrayed its lord. "You do not understand," Oblivion said,
his voice now ringing like a death knell. I am not an enemy you can defeat. I am the end. I am the place to which everything, including you, will return. Cyttorak, faced with an enemy beyond all notions of power, did not yield. He was the lord of the Crimson Cosmos, the embodiment of destruction, and he would not let anyone, not even the Void, take his throne. He focused all his will, drawing power from his own dimension. The Crimson Cosmos began to collapse. The mountains crumbled. The crimson sky disintegrated. But that power flowed into Cyttorak's body, transforming him into a pillar of crimson light, burning like a star about to explode. He charged forward, punching Oblivion with a punch that carried the power of billions of years of existence. The punch caused the space around him to explode, creating an explosion of crimson light that could be seen from millions of universes. Oblivion, for the first time, took a step back, but he did not fall. Instead, he raised his hand, and a vast black hole opened, sucking in everything light, space, time, and Cyttorak himself. In the final moments, as his body was pulled into nothingness, Cyttorak smiled. It was not an acceptance of defeat, but a challenge. "If I must disappear," he roared, his voice echoing even in the void, "then I will drag you down with me." And then a final explosion occurred. The crimson light of Cyttorak and the darkness of Oblivion collided, creating a storm of energy that tore through all of space. The Crimson Cosmos collapsed completely, and the space where the battle had taken place became a void, where there was no light, no sound, no sign of any existence. When the dust settled, no one knew what had truly happened. Had Cyttorak truly been obliterated by Oblivion, or had he managed to survive, hidden away in some corner of the multiverse? Had Oblivion, the embodiment of nothingness, truly won, or had he been dragged into the destruction Cyttorak had unleashed? Not a soul who witnessed the battle lived to tell the tale, and other beings across the multiverse felt only a ripple, as if a part of reality had been erased forever. In a moment of terror, Cyttorak realized that he could not defeat Oblivion. He could only resist its devouring him. With a roar of rage, Cyttorak summoned all his remaining energy, creating a barrier of crimson magic, a living wall that tried to push back the nothingness. It was not a glorious victory, not the overwhelming victory he had had with the Celestial. This was a fight for survival, a fight to maintain his own existence against the erosion of nothingness. In the end, Cyttorak held the boundaries of his territory, repelling Oblivion's encroachment, but it had taken all of his will and strength. Cyttorak is an extremely powerful magical entity, especially in his own dimension. But Oblivion is one of the original abstract entities of the Marvel Universe, representing nothingness, non-existence. He is one of the four great creators, along with eternity, infinity, and death. Oblivion's power lies on a conceptual level, far beyond the power of magic or physics. In an unlikely moment, the dark dimension of Cyttorak intersected with the vast, majestic presence of a celestial. Olkoth, the World Maker, stood tall, his living metal frame radiating cosmic radiance, his emotionless eyes scanning the magical entity with contempt. But that contempt was quickly gone. Cyttorak, the god of the ruby stone, had summoned all his primal power, his will burning with the desire to dominate. Streams of crimson energy, swirling like cosmic storms, surged from the depths of Cyttorak, charging straight at Olkoth. The Celestial responded with devastating bolts of energy, tearing the very fabric of space, but they only seemed to increase Cyttorak's rage. Unlike his other foes, Cyttorak had no fixed form. He was pure will, an uncontrollable storm of magic. He enveloped Olkoth, tentacles of crimson energy squeezing the Celestial's massive form, twisting and corroding the seemingly impenetrable metal. The groan of metal echoed through the void as Cyttorak penetrated Olkoth's defenses, his raw power peeling away layer by layer. Finally, with a roar that shook the very dimensions, Cyttorak tore Olkoth apart, reducing the Celestial to meteor dust. Victory belonged to the indomitable will, and Cyttorak had proven that even the greatest of cosmic gods could fall before his limitless power.